Good morning and welcome to the WAVY Digital Desk. Today we're going to have a community chat about the Virginia International Tattoo. It's coming back this April. It's the 27th year. And today we're going to sit down with producer and director Scott Jackson to hear more about this year's event. It's going to be really special. So I'm going to bring Scott on. He's right here in the studio with us. So Scott, thank you so much for stopping by this morning.
Thanks for the opportunity. Good to meet you.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that this has been something that has been a long-standing sort of process planning. Do you just want to tell us a little bit about what makes this year special with a couple anniversaries?
Of course. So I think there's two things about the tattoo that people really want. The first thing are its classic moments. So a classic moment in the tattoo, for example, is the opening, where you're waiting for the show, you're not really sure what to expect. Maybe you've got some nervous energy. Maybe you're like, please don't let this be boring. And the lights go out, and the next thing you know, there's 500 people playing an incredible piece of music, and you don't know how they got there, and you're jazzed up. And then they go into an edition of the national anthem like you've never heard it. And during the course of the show, you just have these stunning moments, which kind of always lead up to a playing of the Lone Piper and the playing of taps, and finally playing Amazing Grace with just a magnificent cast. So the tattoo has these classic moments, but then also people want to know, what does it mean this year? How do I make sense of it? Because I enjoy being entertained, but I want to walk home with some meaning. And that's what the tattoo's best at, is taking these great performances and connecting with some meaning. So this year we have some really interesting anniversaries. It's 80 years from the landing at D-Day. And you think about the young people 80 years ago, a lot of them were 18, 19 years old, and quite literally the fate of the world rested on their shoulders. And it was a long war, but that particular day was probably the most consequential day in the history of war and the history of freedom in our country. So it's an incredible anniversary. And the people on the other side of that battle were the Germans primarily. Well, 5 years later, Germany joined NATO. Think how quickly the world moved. And so we have a German band this year, as well as a bunch of American bands, and also a band from the Netherlands whose hometown was liberated by the Americans 80 years ago. So I think there's a great story about how strong we stood 80 years ago and the responsibility Americans took, but that also we handled that responsibility really well, that our enemies became our allies within 5 years, to make sure we are forging a stronger world moving forward. So I think as you watch the tattoo this year and watch a band from the Netherlands that's grateful for having been liberated, and watch these American bands that represent the people that went before them in the services, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, Marine Corps, and then watch a German band sharing their culture and music, but having, been enemies and now allies, I think the meaning of it is something very special. I think this year you'll especially feel that. I think most of all, I think you'll feel optimistic in a time when it can feel pessimistic. I think watching the tattoo brings out the best in people, and I think the opportunity to experience that for the audience is very powerful.
And I know that it's sort of this bringing together of cultures, whether in, America or abroad each year, but this one, that seems to leave a very special note that people are going to take away this year.
I think absolutely. Again, I think every year is got some classic moments, and if you've been before and you can't wait to see those moments, they're going to be there. But I think this year, that sense of watching people come together who have a long history that extends back 80 plus years and whose history has gotten better and better, I think it is very meaningful, very uplifting. And you can't watch someone perform in uniform and separate them from the uniform. It's part of what you're experiencing. It's part of the story. So I think to see people in those uniforms, the American Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, the German Army, the Dutch Marine Corps, all performing together, I think that's incredibly inspiring.
Absolutely. And then, for people tuning in, they're seeing some B-roll play up on screen here. Some of it's from a preview that took place last week, and then others are from past events. So just wanted to make sure that was understood what they were watching. So this is a little preview of what you will end up seeing in April. This year you also have, I think it's 800 performers. That is a big number from 7 nations. How is that being split up? Are there different groups? Is there new countries this year? What are we going to see?
Sure. Well, when we build the tattoo, I think about like you're a chef cooking a great meal, And every meal needs a great appetizer and some great drinks and a main course and a dessert. So we start out, what are the big categories? And the first thing a tattoo needs are some great military bands. So we always try to feature several U.S. military bands. So we have a band from the United States Navy, the United States Air Force, and the United States Army. So there's, a part of the main course. But then we brought in two of the very best bands in the world, and I mentioned they have a connection to our dates. So we got the best band in the German Army. They're based in Bonn, Germany. There are 80 people in this band. It's huge. And all of their musicians are trained, conservatory-trained musicians, but also soldiers. And then in the Netherlands, their premier band is the Royal Band of the Netherlands Navy. So that's another huge band, around 70 people. So you've got great bands, U.S. military, and then bands, again, that connect to D-Day and NATO and Germany and the Netherlands. Then pipes and drums, very important part of the recipe. That's like the spice. So we like to bring in pipes and drums from around the world and from the U.S. So we've got our own Tidewater Pipes and Drums here based in Hampton Roads. And then we've got a group from Camden, New Jersey, that's basically a police firefighter band. So that they're called the Emerald Society. Camden County will be here. But then from Canada, the Royal Air Force Pipes and Drums, great tradition of piping there. And then also from Australia, we have two private schools that are high schools that are coming. So we'll have a lot of young people. And that's nice because the tattoo has a lot of young people in our student shows. So it's a great connection there. So a big group of pipes and drums from around the world. And then another piece of it is you need something, again, something that's a surprise. Maybe this is like the special dessert surprise. Well, this year we got the group I absolutely wanted, which is called Top Secret. So they're a Swiss drum corps. They are like as precise as a Swiss watch, unbelievably precise. And they're the most watched drumline in the world. They have something like 10 billion views. 10 billion views on social media.
That's like some of those celebrities on Spotify.
They are rock stars.
Wow.
So if you're interested, look for Top Secret. Anyways, so they'll add something really neat. And then finally, we always like to have a drill team. So this year we have the U.S. Air Force drill team. The show is a powerful show with lots of music, and it's a loud show, and it's really nice for about 8 minutes in the middle of the show, just have a break. And so you can just watch them. It's magical, it's precise, but it's also it changes the whole energy of the show to go from this really high energy, high music situation to all of a sudden it's silent and you're just hearing the heels click of these performers. They actually have steel on their heels, so one heel click can ignite the whole performance. So again, part of the recipe this year.
Wow. I mean, that's just quite a lineup even just to hear about. And this is all taking place, it's hard to believe, just over a couple days. This isn't even happening over an entire week, although it seems like it could. You guys jam-pack the entertainment, in a few days. I want to go back to, saying that youth groups were coming, to perform as well. That is such an interesting addition to this year's lineup, to be able to sort of see different ages across, different countries as well. Is that something that you all have done in years past as well, or is that special to this year?
It's definitely something we've done in the past. One of the things that guides me, I like to tell people in my family, there's only 2 days a year that my parents, my wife and I, and my kids are somewhere and no one's complaining. The first day is Christmas, and the second day is tattoo. So that's pretty good company. So the point is, when we're putting this recipe together every year, I kind of think, what are my parents really going to respond to and really enjoy? What are my wife and I really going to enjoy, and what are my kids going to enjoy? So there's always a sense of that layering of performers. So I mentioned we have these high school pipe bands from Australia, but we also have our own Virginia Children's Chorus, which will have singers from elementary school, middle school, high school performing. And then we do the show, we do 4 performances for the public, which are full performances, but we also do 2 student matinees that are on a Thursday and Friday morning at 10:30. We can fit 6,300 students, and we've got, I think, a waiting list for one of the shows, and we're very close. We're going to sell those both out, but it's awesome to see 6,300 students responding to a show, including a lot of students performing. I mean, that's great representation. So yes, it's something we do every year. How we put it together, we try to keep it interesting, but there's always a desire on my part that I want my kids to light up because they heard something they connected to. I want my parents to light up because they heard something they connected to. So that's always part of the show.
Wow. And, with those matinees and just the larger vision of Virginia Arts Festival for a moment, you all do a lot of work, with schools in the community and also youth in the community and sort of connecting, what is happening on stage with the students. And so this is just another extension of that.
Definitely. In fact, I was thinking about that the other day. I put some numbers together, and I think 375,000 students have either attended the tattoo or had someone from the tattoo in their school. 375,000, wow. That's a big number. That's something I think we all can feel great about. And when the tattoo started in 1997, our single biggest problem was explaining what it was. And that's still something that we spend a lot of time doing. But think about over time, just about everybody that grew up here not only will know what the tattoo is, they will have attended it. So it feels great to have done that, and it's something we're always committed to. And as you mentioned, the Virginia Arts Festival as a whole, we want to make sure that every student that grows up in Hampton Roads is experiencing a world-class performance live at least once in their school years, if not every year. So that's been an aspirational goal, and we're getting closer and closer to reaching that.
Right, and in that group of students, you hope whether it touches them in a way that they carry this memory of seeing it forever, or it could spark an interest in being a part of it one day or being a part of music one day.
Absolutely. In fact, last year, a friend of mine that's a retired Navy captain told me a story that I didn't know. His son had attended the tattoo when he was in high school, and he was applying for a Virginia Tech scholarship, a Navy ROTC scholarship. And he had to write an essay about something that made him want to join the military. And he wrote his essay about attending the tattoo and feeling so proud of his dad. And here he grew up in Hampton Roads, and the tattoo somehow reached him, and it kind of cut. It just, a light bulb went off, like, my dad is part of this. So that's one student I know of, and there's 375,000. So imagine those memories. And everyone's going to be different. For someone whose parent wasn't in the military, they might say, I want to dance. Or someone else might have said, I want to join up. Or someone else might have said, this isn't my thing, but I respect it. It doesn't matter what the answer is. It just matters that someone's had a chance to experience it. They've had a seat at the table, or to quote Hamilton, they were in the room where it happened at least one day and know what that's like. And so, yes, I think that those memories are so powerful. And again, I don't want to control what the memories are or how someone responds. I just want to make sure they're in the room where it happened. I like to tell people, if you haven't been to the tattoo, it's okay, but it's not okay. Because people travel all over the world to Norfolk and Hampton Roads to attend this show, to participate in this show. At least one time, you ought to be in the room where it happens and see what it's all about.
Wow, that is such a sweet story. And to think that that is the thing that stuck with him enough, to share that with not only the college admission process, but...
Oh, by the way, he got the scholarship.
Okay, great.
Went to Virginia Tech and commissioned as a service warfare officer in the Navy. So
Incredible.
The story has a great continuation.
Oh my gosh. Well, if that, isn't motivational, for someone to attend or for someone to bring their kids or for the kids to get involved, I don't know what is. I think the other thing I want to talk about too is just that it is 75 years from the founding of NATO, as you said, as all the countries came together. I know that every year is special, but the significance of sort of having these two anniversaries this year is pretty incredible with the lineup that you all have. Are you all doing any sort of, I want to say, speeches or performances specifically dedicated to celebrating those two anniversaries?
Definitely. What we're going to do, one of the things about the tattoo is it's fast moving. And so we don't ever stop and just talk. And the other thing is, what I love to do as the producer and director is storytelling. What I don't like to do is lecturing. So the idea is present this history to people and let them make up their mind about it. So one of the things we're going to do in the finale, we're going to play the Battle Hymn of the Republic. And we have the best arrangement ever written of the Battle Hymn. It features 5 professional military bands, 3 choirs, including a children's chorus, incredible lineup. And we'll start to tell the story on video and with narration of these great moments, and particularly where were we at 80 years ago, where we are at 75 years ago, where are we today, where NATO's only North American commands here in Norfolk, Allied Command Transformation. And at every show, Folks from NATO countries will be there with us. So we'll definitely, I love storytelling, and we want to tell that story, but we want to let the story tell itself. We'll interview World War II vets, people that were at D-Day. You'll hear their voices. You'll hear their stories. And I think that's what people really respond to, again, is what does it all mean? And I'm not going to tell you what it means, but I'm going to tell you what happened and what Americans did 80 years ago and how gracious they were in victory, that we formed an alliance instead of a hatred. And I think those stories will really come through during the show.
So with the show, I mean, I know it is music, but you're really learning a lot, in these days at the Virginia International Tattoo, whether it's about a different culture or about history, as you said. So it really does have a greater, I guess, significance or sort of message that it gives to the public.
Yeah, you're so right. In fact, I love music. My background is as a musician, but number one way you experience the tattoo is with your eyes, not your ears. And the number two way is with your heart. And then third way is your ears. So there's so much to take in with your eyes. What performers do you respond to? Look at how they have different styles. Look at the uniforms they're wearing. How cool is it to see people working together and marching together? What does a German band really sound like? What did I think it sounded like? Is it the same? Is it different? What does a pipe band from Australia look like and sound like? You're constantly taking things in. I knew a couple that was from Edenton, North Carolina, that loved to attend the tattoo every year. So they would attend all 4 shows, and they would get a different seat for every show. They would get with our box office person, Kari, and they said every show felt different because when I was right down by the floor, I could see the facial expressions of each performer, and I enjoyed that. But when I'm up high, I can see the whole formation. I can take that in. And I think as an audience member, you're constantly seeing things. And I know from talking to my family, I love to ask, what surprised you? What do you enjoy? And so many people saw different things. Someone will be like, I couldn't believe that one dancer that was like 8 years old was so great. And someone will say, oh, I didn't see them, but I saw that drummer that was like 85. And I thought, oh, that was great. And so, yes, there's an enormous amount to see and an enormous amount of learning that goes on. And that's one of the reasons it's so popular with schools and so many students attend. But yeah, I think you'll get a lot out of it. Again, you'll hear some great music, don't get me wrong, but it's really your eyes and your mind and your heart that's 100% engaged from the first note to last.
And that says there's no bad seat in the house.
There is no bad seat. In fact, my seat is the tallest. I'm the highest up. I'm in this little press box, and I love my view up there. But every year I stay up there and I'm kind of connected by radio to everything and I can't move. And then for the very last show, everybody's locked and ready to go. I actually sit down in different places just to do what that couple taught me, is to see different angles and take different notes about things. So yeah, not a bad seat in the house.
And before we run out of time, I do want to talk about, and this is a perfect segue into that, tickets are available already. And I know that maybe it seems a little bit later, so it's going to be April 18th and 21st, but January has flown by, honestly. So I'm expecting, especially with your planning, February, March are probably going to fly by as well leading up to this. But I guess for people who either haven't gone before or are going, for their second time, their fourth time, maybe their 27th time, I mean, what do you want people to know if they're, looking to buy tickets or, interested in coming out?
Well, I think if you're comfortable going on a website for tickets, that's a great way, because not only can you see the dates and details, but we also have video clips and information and photos. So I encourage you to go to vafest.org, vafest.org, and you can find the tattoo information. You can also call our box office at 282-2822, or you can come by in person at 440 Bank Street. We have basically, I think we're open from about 10 to 5. So all those ways work, and I would just say one of the world's great events is taking place in your town. You should be in the room where it happens at least one time. And I'm pretty sure if you come once, you're going to come again. You're just going to want more people to go with you. So I would encourage you to look into it, check the dates, and buy your tickets now.
And I want to leave it with that, but I do want to add, as you've said throughout this conversation, it obviously is something you can bring anyone to. whether they're kids, whether it's your parents, your friends. So this is really something for that can capture, I guess, every age and sort of every person.
Yeah, like I said, and I don't know of anything other than my family, than Christmas, that is quite so interesting just to everybody when everyone feels the place. So yes, it's absolutely for everybody, and whether you're military or not, or whether you're American or from overseas, it's for you. It's seeing people at their best. It's seeing the best performers in the world, and it's seeing in a way that there's something to really hear and feel from it.
Amazing. Well, there's one thing I wanted to do as we exit. I just have a clip that we can bring up with some music so people can just see that sort of as we end the conversation, and then just hear a little clip, from past years of sort of what people have played. So right now you're seeing what is the preview, but what I'm going to do is you're going to be able to hear it next. And this is obviously not going to replace anything that you're going to see, but you're just going to be able to hear a little bit about what you will end up hearing later on. So I'm just going to play this while we exit. But Scott, thank you so much for joining us today, and we're going to leave people with a little preview of what they'll see.
Thank you.